Abject misery lies not in what the blanket reveals, but in what it hides.
Music. Hello and welcome to Legendarium Green Team's Malazan series. This is the first episode of the final story in this series, and it is book 1 of Dust of Dreams. I'm Hurinfan, and I'm joined by Janath,
Hi.
Befuddled Panda,
Hi.
and Ashaman.
Hello.
So like I said, this is Dust of Dreams, so hit it, Ash.
Prologue. The ribby snake makes its way across the continent. The last Kachane Shamal matron sends out her destriant in search of a shield, anvil, and mortal sword. A ghost follows several Etheri. Heboric Ghost Hands tries to make sense of the pattern unfolding before him.
Lots of exciting threads are started here.
Yeah.
Let's start about Heboric. Were you expecting to see Heboric again?
I mean, he's not like dead, so eventually he would come back at some point.
You never know. We still haven't seen Phyllis in the Younger.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it feels like Haboric is more important to this main 10 arc than Felison is.
You're not wrong.
I mean, he has this whole like Fenner God thing at play, so that needs to get resolved somehow.
Yeah, he's got a real complex.
Yeah, he does. And we have well, Fenner has been mentioned again in this book so far. He's just kind of hanging out, chilling in the Air and Spacement.
I think without knowing the ending, a lot of what he's saying just kind of comes off as confusing nonsense. Or how much of his babbling did you kind of grasp?
I mean, not much. He says that he understands now what the gods of war mean, and I'm like, cool, you understand it. I don't know if I do.
Please explain it.
But yeah, he's the one that comes across the crucified white dragon that we had seen previously before. And that dragon was like was it in the Shadow Warren? It was in a warren, right?
I believe it was Kroldemalon, yeah.
Oh, Kroldemalon. Okay.
Wasn't the Imperial Warren?
If it's the Otaro dragon from House of Chains, it's in the Imperial Warren, yeah.
Imperial Warren, yes.
So that's not the only crucified dragon, so I'm not completely sure. But
it's most likely that one.
there was that blue one too, right?
I don't remember the blue one.
There was one that Mappo and Ikarium found. I thought it was blue. They were like, "Who's crucifying these dragons?"
Oh.
It was in Bone Hunters. Anyway, whatever.
So long ago. Yeah, that dragon's showing up again. It's been a few books.
Been quite a few books.
Panda, I will just, if you don't mind, I'll call your attention in the prologue. There is a strange two-legged lizard with a stubby tail, and also two wolves. Yep. So,
stubby-tailed lizard and wolves.
Do you want me to tell you more about these?
Sure.
Okay. Well, we know of two very important wolves from Memories of Ice.
So Fanderay and
Talk and Fanderay.
Yeah.
People will perish.
And two lizards. We know of one race of lizards that's important so far. The Kachane.
Kachane Shamal.
Well, the Kachane have two different subspecies.
Right, the Naruk.
Yeah, the Naruk and the Chamal. And the Chamal are the longtails and the Naruk are the shorttails. So, yeah, remember in Bone Hunters when they find the Naruk sky keeps in the Imperial Warren, just kind of like hanging out?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So,
they just remember
connected.
them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Keep them in mind for the future.
Yeah, so we introduced the Kachane, Gunthmok, Akil, the Gunthan Akil, the matron, Sogjurak, Gunthmok, Gunroll, the Shigal assassin.
Isn't Gurul?
I don't know. And Kalith, the last of her kind of the Elan. And they're looking for something.
Yeah, my note here is like, what is their quest? What are they trying to do? And it's like, I mean, it explains that the matron wants human worshippers and servants. Like, but what's so appealing about human worshippers?
Surprising, since their last, what was it? Who was the first sword? The Red Mask?
Yeah.
He was found wanting.
He was found wanting, yeah.
And murdered.
So why you're asking why do they want mortal worshippers? Because first of all, the matron's insane, as we know, and she knows that she's the last of her kind.
Mm-hmm.
And this is kind of like a Hail Mary to adapt or die, basically. Because whatever the Chamal was doing wasn't working, right?
She wants to, like, ascend? Is that what she wants? Does she know about ascendancy?
Well, she kind of just doesn't want all of her, race to die.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's not even necessarily that she wants the power that comes from like the spiritual power that comes from worship. Like I think a lot of it's just like she wants the material power that comes from worship, so that she knows that her hive can survive.
She knows how self-destructive the Kachane are, and she wants to learn from humans.
Yeah, with like I thought there was something too about like kind of copying the structure of human faith on top, like for the chain.
It's like we don't know why this is working, but it does seem to be working, so we're just gonna try and copy it and see how that
I
goes.
see. Okay.
Do you think this is like a metaphor for science versus faith? Because the Kachane kind of rely a lot on their scientific progress, and they kind of destroy themselves through their, I don't know, hubris, I suppose you could say. And she kind of sees the worship of the gods and the faith that they have there as the strength of humans, and so she's trying to, I don't know, I suppose, merge those two ideas.
That's a valid interpretation.
Maybe.
I don't know. I just thought that now.
Although, when they were describing how was it Vegas?
Gath.
Soldiers? Yeah. How like she was birthing them. I was like,
Gross.
this reminds me of how the orcs are portrayed in Lord of the Rings.
Specifically
But they're
the
not like,
Uruk-hai.
yeah.
The Peter Jackson movie specifically, eh?
Yes.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Let's
this came
see.
out before that. So,
Did it?
It didn't. No.
No,
no? Oh.
2002 was to the Two Towers, which is the Uruk-hai were introduced in.
Oh.
No, Uruk-hai was introduced in Fellowship.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right, you're right. Yeah. And that was 2001, and this was like 2008, 2009, 2010.
It's kind of like some horrifying imagery, I think. And then there's the she's walking through the surgical rooms where the swords are grafted onto the arms of the Kell hunters.
2009.
Very unforgiving world.
How do you like the snake? They're lovely.
Yeah. It's not as like horrific in the sense of like terrifying, like the what were they called? The zombie people in Memories of Ice.
Tenniscowry?
Yes. So it wasn't like as horror-esque as that, but it's still like horrifying in the sense that they're eating children.
Mm-hmm.
They're eating themselves and the worms, and they're being chased by adults, and they have to take care of themselves, and they're just losing their ability to be children. I think this is the worst thing I've read in the entire book, in the entire series. I don't know. I don't know if it's just hitting me at the right time, but it's awful. And poor
Yeah.
Held, who's just named Held because it's Held. And the
Right.
girl Badal, who's constantly speaking in poetry, and Radal, Rut, who's always moving them. I love Rut. Rut's great.
Yeah. Rut held.
Mhm.
Badal gives them the words they need to keep going.
And it gets
Yeah.
worse. It just keeps
And
getting
it gets worse. Yeah, it's always going to get worse for them. Poor Snake.
And then we got finally a ghost who's got ghosts inside the ghost.
Yeah, what do you think about this ghost, Panda?
I'm not quite sure. I'm just kind of just really along for the ride with this ghost thing.
Good.
Because this ghost then shows up later.
Yeah, you
Right.
notice the names of the voices, right?
I forget.
One of them is Taxalian from Reaper's Gale.
Oh yeah.
I think one is
Okay.
Rautos, right?
Rautos.
Oh
Hibernate.
yeah, these are the ones that, well, supposedly these are the ones that died when Ikarium like activated whatever machine. Does that mean that what's his face? The snotty man. I forget his name.
Oh, not
Snot
Mappa.
man. That guy.
God, the wall guy.
He doesn't deserve a name.
Then Maybe he's one of these voices.
I don't think so.
No?
But we
Okay.
have names for all 7 voices, yeah? I don't think he was named.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, okay.
Not all of them are people that we know, I think.
Terralak Veed.
Thank you.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes,
Terralak Veed.
Veed.
Terralak
Ugh.
Veed, booger hair.
Before we move on from the prologue, the dramatis personae. I did read
Yes.
it this time.
We told you it was funny.
I loved it. All the bugs.
Yeah.
And then just the long, long list of Marines. I'm like, yeah.
I got something to look forward to. Marines.
Yes.
Was Notorious Bread in the
Nefarious bread.
Nefarious Bread? Was he in the
Might as well be notorious.
Notorious
didn't
and
see him.
nefarious.
But I could have missed it.
I'll look it up right now.
It would be hilarious if he just added him to it from like book 4 on.
Nefarious.
Oh, the whole time? No, I don't
Yeah, I
think.
don't see him.
I don't see it.
Yeah.
Nope.
Look forward to when he finally shows up, though.
Ugh.
I don't think he's gonna show up. I think it's just a running joke.
Okay, that's what you think.
You say so, doubter.
I believe.
I
Sure.
believe in Nefarious bread. Yeah, we should go to chapter 1. The Bone Hunters execute a special operation to capture a runaway sergeant. Sin and Grub explore the dead Azath house until they are corralled by Captain Kindly. King Tehol wisely placates key members of his power base before they rile up a mob against him. Menashar makes a deal with the errant. Tavor consults with the Lethari about performing a deck reading and begins assembling the participants.
I really enjoyed this chapter.
It's one of the best
Uh,
first chapters, I think.
Yeah.
The Bone Hunters, like you're reading, because he doesn't, introduce or set up or like anything, right? You're just like you're dropped in the middle of them doing their thing and they're stalking somebody. However, the way that he wrote it, it didn't seem like it was them like stalking an enemy. Like, I think part of it is just like it's hard to describe like why I thought it was like, oh, it must be somebody that they know and it's like a friendly. And my assumption was that it was going to be revealed that this was all like a training drill to keep the Marines like entertained or give them something to do, right? I wasn't expecting it to be Fiddler, but when the reveal happened, it was very entertaining.
It makes the
You're not
little
supposed
bit.
to kill him.
Yeah, it's a bomb glared across the bottle. I could have had him. We need the fool alive, you idiot. Snap bottle. The sergeant gaped. We do? What do you think? They're just gonna kill Fiddler.
Yes, see, I think it's like things like that where you're just like, okay, this must be like a joke or, something that's not like imminent danger kind of thing.
It's very lighthearted. It's funny,
Right.
but it's also serious
Yeah.
because like it's really actually really important for things to happen later on.
Mm.
And it also sets the mood for like how much Fiddler doesn't want to do this.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, it's like this first chapter and then all of the chapter 3 before the reading was just excellent tension building.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially because prior to this in the books, reading the deck was never that big of a deal. But he needed to establish it as a really big deal in Lether.
Well, especially when in like previous, like early on, right? I think it was like it was a game. It was described as a game. And even when like Fiddler does it, it's not like too serious. But then it becomes more and more serious as you move through the series.
Yeah, because at the beginning we're told like, oh man, Fiddler and Hedge are crazy. They shouldn't be doing this, but like the consequences are usually nothing, right? It's just
Yeah.
everybody else saying you shouldn't be doing that.
Right.
Although when they are playing the game, I forget who's in the room with them, but it's Whiskey Jack's one of them in Gardens, where they all just stare at their cards and don't do anything. Like there's a lot of like there's like a heavy tone to that scene, I think. Like cuz it becomes like really obvious that they're making a point. Very foreboding.
Yeah.
I like the beginning of the chapter. I don't know. It's something that Steve I think's been doing since book 5, where he opens the chapter. I mentioned in book 5. I'm not sure. I've mentioned it a few times. He opens the chapter to show like a bunch of animals in nature doing something, and it's supposed to be a metaphor for something that happens later on. And this time, it's the two-headed bugs getting killed by the lizards, and then the bugs killing the lizards, and then the owl eating the lizard, and then getting a really bad stomach ache. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just love it when Steve does that.
Started in memories.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's at least some amount of memories.
This is a little bit of a tangent, but if you really enjoy like the whole writing about animals and extinction and like survival, I highly recommend the book Last Chance to See by Douglas Adams, which Douglas Adams, we usually know him, you know, for sci-fi writing, but he wrote this nonfiction book in the 80s, I think, and it's like him and the zoologist going to different parts of the world looking for these animals that are endangered on the brink of extinction, which is why it's called Last Chance to See, and then talking about like their adventures of finding these creatures, what they look like, and the like conservation efforts around them. And then 20 years later, Stephen Fry and the same zoologist like made a documentary going back to see these creatures and seeing how they're doing, whether or not like the conservation efforts were successful. It's very good.
I imagine depressing too.
It is depressing. Yeah. There was like the Yangtze River dolphin that we believe to be extinct. It's very sad.
Excellent.
Great. No.
Let's see. Sid and Grub are looking through the Azath.
Yep.
Porez gets messed up by the wasps. Yeah.
That was funny.
And Sin can apparently use magic without her Warren, which is interesting.
Sin is super scary.
Very, very
I love
scary.
Sin. She needs someone to give her a hug.
She said to Grub, I look at you and I think Makra.
Mm.
To that, Grub made no reply. Instead, he crept forward, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, oh, what if Grub is not actually a child? What if Grub is like older than he's been presented? What if Grub is actually Tayshrin? I don't think so,
Tayshrin?
but I'm just saying that thought did cross my mind.
Okay, I like the thought. Definitely not Tayshrin. Tayshrin, I don't think has a subtle bone in his body.
Very good point.
On top of which, they were in different places in
I know.
Malice City and Bone Hunters.
But hey,
Um,
there could have been like, you know, hand wavy things happening and ta-da!
I thought you were gonna say maybe Grub is Shadow Throne.
Nah, there's no giggling.
Acts
There's
too
not any
sane.
giggling. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, Sin is they're it's through these two that we're kind of getting an idea of what Ikariam did, and like the
Yes.
vaguest of ideas. But
Right.
more is coming.
finally there's some follow up. Yeah, there's foreshadowing. There's exploration of how the world is changing now, which I
Well,
really appreciate.
Most of that actually came from that long speech that Quickben gave to
Oh
the
yeah,
Cedar.
later on. Oh my goodness. I have things to say about that. It took him until book 9 to like lay it out that clearly, and to me it was like Erikson saying, if you haven't gotten all of this by now, let me just explicitly tell you so that you can move on and better understand the importance of what is going to follow.
Yeah, I think that's basically it.
The info dump is after you've like been shown the thing like 50 times already.
Yes.
It was one of my favorite scenes, honestly. I love it.
Yeah. Going back to the Azath house. So Azath houses can move, apparently.
Well, for this one, we actually know what happened, right? So this Azath house is the one in the city of Lether.
And the one that died, right?
It implanted a seed of itself into Kettle.
Right.
And kind of used her as a proxy to move. So, yeah, like the soul
Okay,
or whatever this Azath house is now in the Refugia.
Okay. Got it.
We have Tehol playing Philosopher King. I love you, Tehol. And he's the way he's doing it, fantastic. So big brain. Like he's in my view, he's clearly making the institution as silly as humanly possible. because he wants his people to take kings less seriously and to not venerate him, because he wants to set up he wants quietly revolutionize Letherus from the top down. We'll see if it works, but he does have a god on his side,
which is
That's
helpful.
true.
which is helpful. Since like the entire civil service of the Letherus, from the top down, was kind of destroyed. Yeah, you kind of just need Bug serving all of the major positions because everyone else is dead or incompetent,
or you don't trust them.
or you don't trust them. Yeah, because you have probably a bunch of angry Letheri merchants wanting to supplant you.
Yep.
I enjoyed the scene where Bug meets with Saren Padak and Ursto and Pinocel show up, and she's just like, "Are you gonna be enough?" And he's like, "I'll be enough." She's like, "Are these drunks fine?" "Yeah, they're good."
That is from a later chapter.
Oh, well, Bug definitely meets her this chapter at least.
Does he?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's this chapter where she's like,
Maybe.
"I have a baby," and he's like, "It's the Night of Shadow. I want to talk to this shadow guy." He's like, "Are you sure?"
That would be an interesting conversation, I think.
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
Shadow Throne v pregnant woman. Who wins?
I think Saren Padak would yell at Shadow Throne into submission, and then he would just "Okay, I'm done now," and then disappears.
It's gonna leave. Shadow Throne is uncomfortable. I like. The sex humor is often hit or miss for me here, but for this one it was really hitting. I don't know why. I love how Rocket just wants. She's very frank. She wants to hold a cheat on his wife with her.
Right in front of his wife.
Yeah, right in front of everyone.
Janath says, "Well, yeah. I mean, hey, husband, if that's what you're gonna do, that's what you're gonna do."
She takes it so well, but then she goes "Okay, we need a chat."
Yeah. They settle on a royal squeeze.
Uh-huh.
I'm also pretty certain that Steve is poking a bit of fun at the myth of prima nocte here. The idea that the English kings got to sleep with the married women to consummate their beds. Bug said, "There was a tribe once where the chief and his wife had the privilege of bedding imminent brides and grooms the night before marriage." "Really?" "No, sire," admitted Bug. "I just made that up." "I can write that into our histories if you like," said Janath in barely concealed excitement.
Hey, at least they made it equal. It wasn't just the men bedding the women.
Yeah.
Thank you, Braveheart.
Thank you.
So there were prisoners that got pulled out of a prison.
Kisware and Center.
Malazan prisoners.
Sisters.
Kisware and Sinter. And their squad.
Yeah, I forget how they got there in the first place.
I'm not sure we're told.
Did we see them before this book? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
If it was very briefly.
A Reaper's Gale.
I think. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
This is our first proper look at them, I think.
Okay. Oh, I did have a question. So this is going back to Bone Hunters, where remember there was this whole thing about Iskar Jurak telling natives about the threat that was coming to them, but then we find out that Iskar Jurak is Whiskey Jack. How does that work?
Whiskey Jack's a good guy.
Yeah.
He's like, "Hey, I know the Malazans are coming. I'm the Malazans, but if you don't want to get bulldozed by these Malazans, maybe you should protect yourself."
Okay, so it wasn't like way back in the past. It was a more recent history.
Yeah, it was in livable history. He was mortal.
Yeah, the Bridgeburners are longer lived, but it's not on the scale of hundreds of years, it's decades, I think.
Yeah, the Malazan Empire hasn't even been around for that long.
Okay, got it.
Who knows exactly how long?
Right. Well, Erikson would say it doesn't matter. The reason why I brought that up was because Hedge and Fiddler were talking, and Fiddler was like, "Oh, Hedge, you're the messenger of the bridge burners now."
After the reading?
Yeah. Or is it after the reading? No.
Yeah, it's definitely. They don't talk before the reading. Fiddler's trying to avoid Hedge.
Right. And then they were he mentions Whiskey Jack to Hedge, and Hedge is just not saying anything. And then there are just Juraks around them. Maybe he's listening.
Yeah. You got any theories? What do you think Whiskey Jack's up to?
I don't know, but he's up to something.
And it has something to do with
That's
Hedge.
true. It certainly might. Do we want to move on to Chapter 2? Excellent. Chapter 2. Silchus Ruin convinces Udnas to let him take Rud Alal away. The Destriant of the Grey Helms issues a warning to the shield anvil Tanakalian. Yan Tovis, Queen of the Sheikh, exiles Yedin Derrig for the murder of most of their witches and warlocks. Yan Tovis then leads her people away from the shore. The Grey Helms treat with a Bolcondo. Another great example of humor early on in the book. The Volcando treaty practices, which they're totally making up, but were like completely horrifying.
Oh, the different drinks and stuff that.
Yeah, made from like stillborns and sacrifice 14th daughter.
Yeah.
The Volcando are terrible, but that's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Like they're truly terrible, but I guess not as terrible as they pretend to be.
Yeah, they have like this like wildly overinflated sense of ego, and they're like way too their interfactional conflict is or intrafactional conflict is just like way overstepping themselves for how tiny their kingdom is and how quickly they would have been completely annihilated by the Lithari if the Lithari actually got around to conquering them.
Mm. Is this kind of like a situation where like a little dog is super yappy
Yeah,
against a big dog?
Yeah, and they give me echoes of Imperial China as well. It feels like a little bit of inspiration there.
Imperial China was huge though.
It was, yeah. That's the that's the contrast. Like other than that, I think it's a good parallel. But yeah, the Volcano Kingdom, tiny.
I love almost every scene in the Refugium, just because I don't know, it gives this warm feeling, and you could really you could feel how deeply they feel for each other. Especially at the Imas, it's like all their emotions are on their sleeve, and you feel the grief for the death of Troll and the love that Radalal has for everybody, and Udinas actually kind of being a little bit happy for the first time in his life.
Yep.
Yeah, it was just nice.
Yeah, well, yeah. It must be great not having to be a slave or on the run from people who are trying to kill you. And he has a son who's not awful. So, yeah, things are by far the best Udnas has ever had it. And then Silchus Ruin comes along. It's like, yeah, we actually need to take your son away. And Udnas is like, that sucks, but okay.
So, if I'm understanding correctly, it's because his son has dragon blood in him.
Yeah.
And he would actually like end up abandoning these people.
It's because dragon blood makes you more chaotic and like incredibly selfish. And there have been like 3 people who have maybe been able to overcome it, like Oseric, maybe Animander, and maybe now Silchus Ruin. Although he himself admits
I don't
that
really believe it. Yeah.
Well, at least he's very aware.
Yeah, exactly. And then like basically everyone else is a terrible person.
I really enjoyed the scenes of Silchas licking his wounds after getting humbled. It's like I was not expecting this.
There's also Solana.
Well, she's just playing up
she's
Elaine.
dragon.
But yeah, good point.
Yeah, but she doesn't act the way that Elaine are supposedly act. She's like very serving to Rake, and she just like chills a lot of the time when she's not doing stuff for Rake or for the Teist.
Yeah, I want to know more about her.
I think that is mostly just because she is personally loyal to Animander and not necessarily anybody else. But we just don't know much about her.
I think they definitely do the sex.
Absolutely.
That is heavily implied, if not stated, in these books.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it was stated at one point.
Yeah, Rake and I think she likes him just because
Rake's a scaly
or something. Yeah.
I mean, they would have to do it in dragon form.
You never know. Maybe Rake is, use your imagination.
Oh dear.
Well, I'd have an answer for that, Panda, but it's spoilers for Carcanus.
Interesting. Okay.
It's not what you're thinking right now by that response, but
okay.
The Grey Helm's Destriant's dead, and Tanakalian's kind of a bastard.
No, Tanakalian's a good boy.
Tanakalian, no.
He's the worst.
So his views on these things line up, like, for example, who's worthy of redemption. They line up very well, I think, in reality with what most people view of redemption.
You're
Like
right.
he's saying that I'm not going to embrace everybody. I'm just going to embrace people that I think are worthy. Only the people who prove themselves get to be redeemed. And I think that's what the vast majority of people view as
You're right.
yeah.
And I believe that's what we as readers are supposed to notice and maybe
Mm-hmm.
sympathize with. But when it's literally his job as the shield anvil of Tog and Fandray to do this thing, not to impose his own will on, what he should be and not should be doing.
Yeah, for sure. And how many people actually stick to the spirit of their job all the way through rather than imposing their own sense of morality onto it?
Yeah, but this is right after his Destroyant is dead and his Destroyant saying, "Oh, we made a mistake. She's
Yeah.
gonna betray us," and talking about betrayal, and he's just like, "Oh, all right."
To be fair, the Destrian was kind of mean to him too.
He's both worried about the betrayal. He's worried about what's going to happen, but also being a hypocrite at the same time.
Yeah, and to be okay, I think Tanakellian also has a lot of. He's obviously very self-reflective, right? And he's very skeptical of their organization as it is. And especially this manifests through how he thinks about Krukava. Is that her name?
Yeah.
The Mortal Sword.
Yeah.
And his criticisms of her, to me, they seem pretty fair.
No, I agree. I totally agree. And yet I still vastly prefer Krugava.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
of where my motivations or my loyalties lie.
She's just more likable, right?
She's also more likable, and as she's drinking this stuff, she's the one that's actually upset or rightfully righteous about what's going on, even though she was being tricked.
But also Krugava shows cunning by kind of overstating her pious sort of she kind of comes off as this pious bumpkin that can be easily manipulated until it's time to pull the rug out, and she's just like, "You think I'm an idiot?" And that's really cool, and he's impressed with it. I just hate how petty and spiteful he is all the time. When the Destrian's like, "No, I'm not going to be embraced by you because you're terrible for this order," and blah blah blah. He's like, "I didn't want to embrace you anyway, and I'm changing the whole way I do things now because you didn't want my embrace." I don't know. And he's always that petty and spiteful. Even when he's admiring Krukava's cunning and thinking about how well she played it off, he's like, "Yeah, she sucks, but I like her for this," and just constant, just oozing spite.
He's very human. I think we
Yes.
all agree with that. A very, very human character.
Ugh.
So I agree with everything you said, Ash. I just think he's a bastard. I don't like him.
Yeah. I don't like him much personally. I wouldn't want to have a beer with this guy. But fair criticisms. If you're part of a group of fanatics, there are worse people to have around.
His criticisms of their organization are totally founded.
Yeah, and we don't want them to be, right? Because they're on the quote good side.
Yep.
Yeah.
Last thing, Yaden Derek. He just kind of murdered everyone.
Honestly, he did nothing wrong.
Everyone loves Yaden Derek.
Right? He murdered 38 people.
Yeah, he sure did. He did it unilaterally. He did it without mercy.
It was the real politic thing to do. The immediate cutaway from her being pissed at him for it is the two warlocks being like, "Oh, I can't wait to kill this queen off." And so he was 100% justified in my opinion.
Yeah. Maybe there's a better way to go about it, but yeah, these witches and warlocks, legitimately horrible organization. Virtually no redeeming qualities, I think.
I don't think he was cunning enough to, construct a trap for them and then reveal their, what
he kills things. That's what he does.
Yeah. He's more of a brute.
Everybody already knew, right? Like it's not a secret. Like you don't need to, like, who would you be revealing it to? Like the people already know what these people, like these witches and warlocks are like.
Forcing it to be out in the forefront, and calling it what it is.
So, in my opinion, why he did it the way he did it is, first of all, expediency. And second of all, he's not trying to be subtle because he doesn't want this to be like a thorn in Yantovis' side. He wants it to seem like he's the renegade that killed them, right?
Sure.
So that her authority isn't ever in question.
Compromise.
After this. Yeah, so you could do like this kind of sneaky conniving thing, but then it might end up seeming, oh, it was Yantovis who orchestrated this. She's the kind of person to murder her own people. And he, like, Yen and Dare is totally fine taking the fall for all this. He doesn't mind at all, which is hilarious. The one quote I have for this episode is from Yen and Derek's internal monologue, which I find hilarious. Yet and Derek had little time for such games. He could smell an idiot from 50 paces off. He watched their sly evasions, listened to their bluster, and wondered again and again why they could never reach that essential realization, which was that the amount of effort engaged in hiding their own stupidity would serve them better used in cogent exercise of what little wits they possessed, assuming, of course, that improvement is even possible. There were too many mechanisms in society designed to hide and indeed coddle its myriad fools, particularly since fools generally held the majority. In addition to such mechanisms, one could also find various snares and traps and ambushes, one and all fashioned with the aim of isolating and then destroying smart people. No argument, no matter how brilliant, can defeat a knife in the groin after all, nor an executioner's axe, and the bloodlust of the mob was always louder than a lone reasonable voice. The true danger, yet and Derrick understood, was to be found in the hidden deceivers, those who could play the fool yet possessed a kind of cunning that, while narrowly confined to the immediate satisfaction of their own position, proved of great skill in exploiting the stupid and the brilliant alike. These were the ones who hungered for power and more often than not succeeded in acquiring it. No genius would willingly accept true power, of course, in full knowledge of its deadly invitations. And fools could never succeed in holding on to it for very long, unless they were content as figureheads, in which case the power they held was an illusion. It sounds pretentious. Totally fair social critique. Chapter 3. Shirkalal helps Oblala resolve an HR dispute. Fiddler does a reading of the Deck of Dragons, causing all hell to break loose in the city and possibly causing the death of Ersto Hubat. The errant tries to remove Briss from the game and is stopped by Oblala.
I feel bad for Oblala. He's just getting bullied by all those other guards.
Yeah.
Glad
Feel bad for the guards
places,
now.
Though.
Yeah.
They need healers.
He was a nepotism hire.
I hope they don't heal him too much. Shall we talk about the reading?
No, I think we'll skip that this week.
Chapter 4.
The reading was when I knew I loved this book for sure. The first time. I was just like, oh wow, this book is very dark and I'm here for it. And like the stakes felt like they had been sufficiently raised for the last leg of the journey.
Yeah. Here, and do you have written down who is assigned what cards?
Oh, how did you know?
I know you.
So, Spinner of Death, Knight of Shadow, and Master of the Deck are on the table, so nobody actually gets attributed them. We know later that Knight of Shadow stayed on the table because Fiddler just wanted to protect the fetus. Spinner of Death, I have no idea who that is. Master of the Deck, we all know. Sin is the Virgin of Death.
Mm-hmm.
Grub is Scepter. Ben is the Magus of Dark, but he's not Andy.
I don't think that's true, but anyway.
Hedge is the Mason of Death because he needs to build something?
A bridge.
Yeah. Sandalath is the Queen of Dark. Lostodiel is the Champion of Life. Bottle is Obelisk. Gessler is Orb. Stormy is Throne. And Briss is King of Life, but the card didn't hit him because he's still needed, I assume, to take out the errant. Banashar is the Fool in Chains. Tavor is Nothing. Ublala is the Herald of Life, but that was after the reading. And then finally, the last card was Unaligned Chain. I think I know who the Unaligned Chain is, but the rest of these, I'm a little lost. I'm not quite sure what Champion of Life for Lostodiel Yield means. I'm not sure. I have idea for Bottle for Obelisk. I'm not sure what that is. I'm not sure what King of Life means. Fool of Chains? I have an idea. We'll probably just bring this up in the spoilers episode.
Full of Chains. Yeah. We will need to bring that up. Spoiler.
And Grub Scepter. Not sure.
Well, we have Orb Scepter Throne gathered right here. That's an ENC Ashaman book.
They're all unaligned.
Yeah.
Orb Scepter Throne was put out after this, right?
It was published after this, yeah.
What about with Quickben? Was one of the mages in Rariku an ND or
Could be.
Could be.
We know very little about what happened there, other than.
But that's not confirmed.
I don't believe that's confirmed. No.
Okay.
That was my thinking. Is that he has a soul of them, but also Quickben's skin is darker.
Darker, but not black.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, but
Onyx.
But he could be partial. Like, I don't know who his parents are. I don't know who his ancestors are.
That's
true.
We didn't really know how Andy genetics works, so.
Or where they've been, right? Like, we do know some like partial Andy characters, like Topper is probably the most significant of them.
Mm-hmm.
Clip was only partially Andy as well.
Yeah, but Clip was just like Onyx Black, though, right?
Yeah. So like he was.
And Topper just kind of like, people were like, oh man, he looks kind of Andy-ish, but he didn't really look Andy.
Yeah, there's been a lot more mixing outside of Blue Rose.
Yeah.
So just
Interesting.
saying.
Yep. Yeah, Quickben, super mysterious, but this
hints.
seems like a hint of some kind.
And he wants to stay away from Sandaloth.
Sandaloth. Virgin of Hyosteth, not a card that you want to get. Obviously, this does not, like, the sexual status of Sin is not what's being designated here. It's more like she's kind of the cursed one of the group. Sort of innocent.
Sorry was also called the Virgin of Death in Gardens of the Moon,
yeah. Yeah. So, and we know what was up with Sorry, right? So, it's not a good thing.
Speaking of Sorry, this whole time when the little dragons were calling her Absolar, not Absolar, I was just like, oh, that's weird. But then I realized why they called her not Absolar.
Because she's not Absolar.
Yeah.
Yeah, they know Absolar. This isn't her.
Sorry, it took me a long time to wrap my head around that.
They do explicitly mention it, though.
I don't know why.
Well, you probably didn't remember that Absolar was like a real person.
It was until like the last book where we saw Absolar, the real Absolar, in the in Dragnapur. I was like, oh yeah, there is Absolar, and that's how you differentiate between the two.
And she even calls herself Absolara, so it's a corrupted version of the name.
I don't really have much to say other than it was a really cool scene. I like seeing Hubut melt.
Ersto Hubut. No, that was sad. That was really sad. Poor guy.
He'll be fine.
Maybe. We don't know
Well,
that.
even Bug said like they may not actually be dead, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and I do think there's actually quite a bit to talk about in just like the small section. Like the way that Bug was explaining these really ancient gods, but they're not as ancient as the elders. And how like what their wine and bread, him and
No,
Hubert,
wine and beer, right?
wine and beer, Hubert and his wife, and that kind of like makes sense given their personalities. But then there was like also animal husbandry, and it's just these are, I guess, rituals that have been abandoned or not as like given as much respect. And so I guess the gods aligned to those things, or the gods of those things, are corrupted in some ways.
That whole explanation by Bug really felt like this was written by an anthropologist.
Yep. I loved it. I want more. Because like legitimately, this is one of the prevailing theories for how we think civilization formed, or quote civilization.
Oh right,
where it's like beer and wine. I think it's mostly more on beer side though,
Mostly beer,
because that's what's safe to drink, and also
right.
You can get drunk off of it, which is very enticing.
Well, that was like one of the explanations. I'm not sure how real it is, like rooted in fact, but one of the explanations of why like Asians can't process alcohol as well,
Hmm.
this is like generalization, is because instead of making beer, Asians made tea. East Asians made tea. They boiled the water and then flavored it to drink it, whereas the Europeans made beer.
Degenerates.
Hot
Yeah.
leaf juice.
Evolutionary biology is a super interesting subject that could do with some more empirical data.
I did think it was interesting where Briss was making observations about the Malazans, and in his observations, it was really about Tavor and her leadership, and how he's like, these Malazans are, they're not that different in terms of unruliness from his soldiers, but their treatment of Tavor is very different than his soldiers' treatment of their leadership. And it was I think that's the thing, is like, it was interesting to see it from his perspective, because you see within the Malazan ranks, like, there's the doubt and there's the frustration with how Tavor leads. But Briss is seeing it from the outside and is like, but you guys are still pretty loyal to her.
Yeah. Like again, the question of like what makes the Malazan special, and you get another perspective on it here. These like the Malazan soldiers allowed to fool around much more than Lethari soldiers are, but when things come down to it, they're much more disciplined as well.
Yeah,
I like
and
Big Tassim.
the recognition that even though they got screwed over by their empress, they're not like, weak. They
Mhm.
didn't take it they didn't take it sitting down. They actually like pushed back.
Yeah, and of course it probably helps having a commander who actually cares about you. Like the
Yeah,
Lethari
that's true.
probably have never had that.
And
Um,
infinite pockets.
yeah, that helps too.
Okay, that's the thing, is like, Tavor's like, yeah, we got gold, we'll pay you for all these supplies, all these things. I'm like, how many wagons? Like, you
No, we
just
know
care.
this. It's from Banishard. Since he's the
Oh,
last priest of Drek, he has direct access to their
All of
to
their
the
coffers.
all the coffers through Warren. So yeah, they have
They're
have
set. They're set
ink.
for a while.
Yeah, they're not hurting for cash.
like people can't like use those warrants to actually never mind. Ignore
Haitian probably
that.
can.
Yeah,
Haitian definitely
Tayshrin
can.
probably would be able to if he was interested in using gold. Drek is still around, right? So presumably
Okay.
Drek is allowing Benishar to take this gold and
Basically,
hasn't killed him.
Drek killed all of the priests except for Tayshrin and Benishar.
Yeah.
Can they make another? They can like groom another person to
They could.
have the same abilities.
Presumably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they didn't.
Nope.
If you want to learn more about Drek's cult, read Paths to Ascendancy by Ian C. Esselmont.
The newest book, which is out now, and honestly, my favorite.
Oh, does that one deal with Drek too? I was talking about the second one. I think
Yeah,
it's the second.
that was the second one, but I said Forge of the High Mage is out now, and it's my favorite.
Oh, okay. Have you read it already?
Yeah, that's why it's my favorite.
It's not out in the US.
It is
That's the
not
thing
out in the US.
at this time. But it's out in Canada.
Yeah, I need to start reading the Paths to Ascendancy books. I've read most of the novels of the Malazan Empire, all the ones that I'm really interested in. Although I should get to Stonewielder and Orb Scepter Throne at some point.
Stonewielder's the best one. Well, maybe after Orb
Bone,
Scepter.
Blood and Bone is probably the best one, right? That's what Erikson said his favorite one was, and I
Really?
trust his opinion. It was Blood and Bone is fantastic.
Stonewielder's really
It's
good.
not my favorite of the six.
Orb Scepter is my favorite, but I think Stonewielder's actually better. Well, let's move on.
So I think it was Bug that says this. The night of the reading, the Lord of Death fed on no one this night beyond a few hapless souls in a destroyed inn. They may be simply reduced, blah blah blah, talking about Herbus Ersto Hubert and his wife. But my question is, who is the Lord of Death now? Because Hood is in Dragnapur.
It's a good question.
Did somebody just immediately, okay, I'm Hood now?
Yeah, I mean, you know what happens to power vacuums, right? Like someone's moved in, for sure.
Well, are we absolutely sure that that part of Toll the Hounds has already happened at this moment, and that there's no like overlap?
I believe so, because they said after the reading that Hood was suspiciously absent.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
which is why Dead Smell's stuff went so whack. Right? You had the dead animals chasing everyone around, and poor Crump chased under the bed. Or no, Masan Gilani was chased under the bed.
Yeah. You've been given a few hints about what's going to happen. Not that you could pick them up, or most people pick them up on the first reading.
Okay, that makes sense. Right. Okay, what you said about the whole Dead Smell scene with like because he's a necromancer, the weird stuff that was happening in which would be very horror. Like if this were adapted, that would be like a very horror filled scene.
Yep.
Yeah, I love Dead Smell. Dead Smell's like
I like
top
Dead Smell
3
too.
Bone Hunter low levels for me.
I like Skull Death a lot.
Skull Death is cool.
Skull Death's really cool.
Along in that same scene, Bug was telling Serempedic about like the I guess the concept of power, because she was saying like, look, 3 ancient gods can't protect me, and he was like, humans just don't understand power, do they? Do you agree? Like, what is your understanding of this power?
Like his explanation, I think, is like power is essentially the potential to do things more than it is actually doing them, if I remember correctly. Absolutely, right? Like projecting power is oftentimes much more important than actually using it, because if you're actually using it, it's often going to hurt you to a comparable amount as someone else. So if you can convince someone else that you're actually, you have a lot of power and they shouldn't mess with you, that's far better than having to actually beat them to a pulp.
So that's what Fiddler did when the errant showed up at the reading. And Briss, which that was a really cool scene, cool part of the scene where Briss just like went along with it and really played his role.
It was a good bluff by Fiddler.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think part of that was Steve telling the audience, just because this person could beat this person doesn't mean that this person is stronger than this person because this person beat that person. It's the
the power rankings.
Yeah.
The perception of power.
Yeah. Like you can very roughly put beings in Malazan in like a tier list of like relative power, and that will tell you very little about what actually would happen if they confronted each other.
Yeah, Shadowthrone's probably not, the most powerful person, but he could probably. He's like Batman. He could take down anybody with good writing.
Yeah, with enough prep.
So this actually makes a lot of sense because the whole concept of like an underdog being able to win over, somebody who is objectively more powerful.
And when power has so many facets in a world like Malazan, like what does it even mean for someone to be called objectively more powerful, right? Like if someone's supremely gifted in like illusion magic, like Shadowthrone, that doesn't necessarily mean that they could put up a good fight against someone like, I don't know, like Ublala or Karsa.
Yeah, Ublala decked the errant.
Just from behind.
It was awesome.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was just thinking about like Paran bringing Opon down in Gardens. Like Opon was probably more objectively powerful than Paran, but he totally brought them to their knees and made them quake in fear at different points in that novel.
Yep.
Right.
Was anyone else hoping that like Genos would actually come through the card?
Yes.
That was so cool.
I kind of thought it might happen, but
just rolls his sleeves up and decks Erastus. Yeah.
Hey, sister.
Well, okay, 2 thoughts. To finish off the power thing is, I guess like that Bug explaining it to Serempedic is in essence like this whole it sums up the whole series theme about mortals being able to take on these powerful gods. And then the thing about Paran is there's a conversation between Tavor and Briss about the master of the deck, and she said that there's a rift between the two of them, but she doesn't like give details about about what that rift is, and I'm wondering if it's Felison and Tavor actually knew that she killed Felison.
Actually, I think she's referring to stuff that's gone over in the first chapter of Gardens of the Moon. They have like disagreements about like Perron's choices in life and where his responsibilities lie, and like that's the last time they see each other in the series until this point, and presumably, until the end, maybe. But
I don't know.
So my read of it is that it is both Perron's actions and Tavor's actions. Perron's actions because him leaving indirectly led to the ruin of their house. And
Okay.
Perron feels guilty about this, and we know this. And also, Tavor did basically sell her sister into slavery, and now she doesn't know where her sister is. She might be dead.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's rift on both sides.
there's I forgot about that him like going with the bridge burners and not like following through with Lauren's plan led to like how this all kind of started in the Dead House Gates prologue.
Which is really
Yeah.
just all Lassine's fault.
No,
Because
this isn't
Lassine
Lassine's
sucks.
fault.
No,
it's not Lassine's fault.
Lassine knew about the bridge burners defecting because she told them to defect. And then they did all this thing with the Perron family, which they didn't even need to do because Perron didn't actually defect.
But nobody but Lassine and like 3 other people knew that were working within the Empire knew about this.
You know what Lassine
so
could have
she
done?
still had to play the.
You don't need to
play
sell
the
your
game.
sister into slavery. It's cool. Don't
She's
worry
not going
about
to
it.
tell that to some random noblewoman.
She could if Lassine didn't suck.
This feels like the very similar to a discussion people have about Last Jedi. Why can't the leaders just tell everybody their plans? Come on.
I mean, they have a point. Anyway, chapter 4.
Yeah, let's go on to chapter 4. Kaliath goes on a spirit journey aided by some hallucinogens. The K'chain Shamal attack the local Barghest Whitefaces, who have been hankering to find an enemy to fight. The Ribby Snake encounters the Shards. Yeah, just get the snake out of the way real quick. Their lives are even worse now.
And don't trust Brayerol, is what I got.
For some reason, this whole Ribby Snake thing, it just doesn't stick in my mind.
I had the same problem when I was reading this for the first time, and I'm not sure if I'm still having that problem or not because we're too early in the book.
Okay. I just
it
forget about
kept
them.
sliding right off my I would have to re-listen to the passages 5 times to understand what I had just read. Just slides right off.
Part of that is definitely because the children themselves don't understand what's happening, right? So the way it's being narrated is not the same as if an adult was narrating and fully grasped what was going on.
Okay.
Which to me makes it more tragic, but I can understand how it wouldn't stick.
Yeah. Anything in this book that sticks with me, it's the snake.
So the
kids
emotion,
just suffering and suffering and suffering. I don't know,
the emotional impact of the snake and the suffering hits that sticks. But in terms of actually processing all of the information, it's not easy to tell what's happening all the time with it, or to
just like Ashad, because we're they're getting followed by what? Something's their fathers and white-skinned people. What the hell's going on? Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm. And all these outlandish monsters that are killing them, like the Shards.
Yeah, I definitely struggled with it. I'm hoping to struggle less with it now that I know more about how it all goes down.
I see. Okay. Yeah, maybe because this is just there's so many more other interesting things that I'm latching on to, and this whole snake thing is just too new.
I would also add that the whole old saying one death is a tragedy, a million is a statistic. Probably a million of these children have died already. So and we don't have faces for most of them.
And they just keep dying. I think that's part of the point too, though. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And Badal is thinking to herself that no matter how many of us died, there's still more that are joining, which kind of gives a sense of the humanitarian crisis that's going on in Kalends.
I guess also because they're so separate from the rest of the arcs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I'm waiting for them to integrate. How is this significant to everything else that we already know? Okay.
Telemandus, was that this chapter?
Yeah.
Telemandus is finally back. Yay.
See, and until this, I assumed he was with Quickben, and we just weren't seeing him. of like POV like wasn't with Quickbin. Particularly like in House of Chains, there was like an acorn or something. I guess that was just one of like his little like magical components that he carries. But I thought there was like stuff with Talamandus and House of Chains at the end. And so this whole time I thought he was with Quickbin, and then I'm like, oh, that's why we haven't heard from him. I just thought it was like POV stuff, and he was like keeping it like, tight.
On the real down low. No, Talamandus is with his people. Helping them out. Or trying to. They're the Barghest are kind of the worst.
Okay. How do you feel about seeing Torrent again? Because last we saw him, I kind of thought he was the worst, and then now I'm just like, oh, I feel bad for you, Torrent.
Right? Torrent is great the second time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, didn't he kind of
Talk's a hero?
Yeah, he kind of went through some stuff with talk stuff that, changed him. So he really was the worst. He's not anymore.
Like Erikson does this really well, right? The characters that you initially dislike, and then later on, you're just like, actually, I sympathize.
And yeah, like his thoughts are super interesting, I think, because he's thinking like, yeah, like they all went out in a blaze of glory, I guess, but the reality is they all died. They all died, and they let Red Mask kind of lead them to the slaughter. And even with these last of the All Children, he's thinking that his responsibility is not to try and keep the All culture alive. It's to let them integrate fully into the Barghest culture, and he's going to be the last All, and the culture will essentially die with him.
But the people will survive.
Yeah, the people, the children themselves are going to survive. It's just the culture that's dying, and this kind of like echoes what the K'chain Shamal matron is trying to do. Because she's also kind of throwing away her own culture in favor of the human culture because she's trying to adapt, and she recognizes that the old ways aren't working anymore.
Are you saying thematic parallels exist in Malazan?
Wild, right?
All right, I gotta go. Have fun.
Thank you. Nice to have you on for a bit. But I guess my thing is the K'chain Shamal are attacking the Barghest. Because one thing is that the assassin dude is like killing the Barghest to prevent Calith from finding the whichever Destriant, Widow Sword, whichever
So
one.
she's the Destriant.
She's the Destriant.
Yeah.
She's looking for the
Mortal Sword and the Shield
Mortal
Anvil,
Sword.
Yeah.
Okay, and the Shield Anvil, which she's expecting to find amongst the Barghest.
She's just journeying that direction because they haven't journeyed that direction before, basically.
Okay.
She herself has no hope of she doesn't hold any hope for it.
Yeah, the Chagall kills those Barghest because they're close to finding the quest party, basically.
Right.
So that's it. It's just like circumstantial.
Yeah.
But he's like actively preventing them from achieving their quest.
Sort
right?
of. Like these Barghest, this Barghest war party probably wasn't gonna they probably weren't gonna be the Shield Anvil and Mortal Sword needed.
He's assuming that the Barghest are not the kind of the humans that they're looking for, and so they like don't want to be found by them because they seem dangerous, and he wants to deny the Kell Hunters the honor of like the fight,
First blood or whatever.
Yeah, and so he just ambushes them all by himself and kills them all. So and thinks he's dealt with them all because he doesn't realize that culturally their dogs are trained to like come warn them about what happened.
Got it.
And additionally, like probably part of the reason this assassin is thinking this is because the last tribal guy that they thought would be a good mortal sword was Red Mask, and obviously he did not work out.
Right.
He was a horrible choice.
Okay.
So some discrimination going on there by the assassin.
The whole K'chain Shamal thing, like in the prologue, I was like, oh, this is really cool. Like we're getting another perspective, and then I kind of lost interest.
Well, probably because Kaliath herself isn't very interesting, right?
Yeah.
I think it gets better later.
Okay.
Brafo.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a big old. I think you'll end up enjoying it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it might be a bit before
Okay.
you really get sucked into it.
I have vivid memories of hiking through the woods listening to the scene where I started caring about this plotline again. I mean, I care about it the whole time because I'm like, ooh, Kachan perspective. That's really weird. That's an odd choice for an author. But really, I kind of empathize with Panda not caring about it.
Yeah, I do as well. Yeah, absolutely. A lot of the problems you've been having with the series, Panda, I was totally having to some extent when I was reading the first time as well.
Okay.
And it's with the hindsight and the change in perspective I have as a reader that have caused me to appreciate a lot of these things more.
Okay. I mean, that's the thing. Is like, you're reading through the series, especially through the first time. There's so much information. You have to filter out like what you really care about. Otherwise, it's just very overwhelming.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um,
And I did not care about the snake at first.
Children are dying. Who cares?
I mean,
It's how sad.
How sad. Oh, boo hoo.
okay, that's gonna make us sound so heartless.
I was actually quoting there's a video that's like this 4-minute long bad car commercial for Malazan Book of the Fallen, and the guy's like, just listen to Captain Lull, children are dying. How sad. And so I was like kind of imitating because he said children are dying, and it like triggered the memory of the joke.
Oh, man, it's been a
Oh.
long time since you shared that video. I'd completely wiped that from my mind.
I've watched that video like 300 times. I love that video so much. I send it to people as I'm like, here's a 10-minute review of Gardens of the Moon that's super serious if you want that, and here's a ridiculous bad car commercial video that's just funny if you want to laugh. And pick which one you want to watch or watch both, and then if you like it, watch read the books. That's my pitch. Is those two videos.
That's hilarious. All right, you're gonna have to send me that video again, and then we can link it in the description.
Yeah.
Who's the person that makes it?
His name's Iskar.
Oh, is it Iskar Jirak?
No. In fact, the video opens with him saying, not the Iskar Jirak that you probably know.
Hilarious. I really like the section where you have the Barghest kind of like dealing with the fallout of their war parties disappearing here, and it like you get the different perspectives. One of which is like the wolf girl that was in Reaper's Gale, and
right.
she's kind of like openly contemptuous of all of them because she's wild at heart now, and it eventually culminates with like them all agreeing like, oh yeah, the enemy that we're facing right now, the enemy that's really messing the Barghest up is peace, because who do we have to fight? Nobody, it seems.
Right. The whole concept of like when you don't have a common enemy, you turn inward and you start infighting.
Yeah, absolutely. And like even like so Tool doesn't want to start any wars, like arbitrary wars, because he knows where that leads and he's been through it. More so than even the Barghest gods, who are apparently malcontents, who are kind of like trying to rile them up or just fighting anybody they can. Hitan, Tool's wife, even is saying just like find us an enemy, find us anybody we can fight, and send us out against them, because otherwise we're gonna fall apart.
Right.
And yeah, like what do? Do you just manufacture an enemy?
I mean, in history, yes.
Yeah, it's been known to happen. Yeah.
Hitan is Krupp's daughter?
No, she had sex with Krupp, and her daughters are now Krupp's or Krupp's daughters.
Oh.
Yeah. So
yeah, he's a deadbeat dad, and he's not paying child support.
yeah, that's pretty typical for Krupp, I think. Not that Hitan would want it.
He's not just like sending them pastries through some sort of magical.
That's what he needs to steal so many for.
Yeah.
Now, apparently, Tool's just more than happy to take him in. Good guy, Tool.
Yeah. Interesting. Chapter
Should we move on to Chapter 5? Absolutely. Chapter 5. The Malazans attempt to whip the Lethari into shape. Quickben and Tavor reveal that Kalans has been usurped by the Forkful Assail, who are sucking the power from the crippled god. Brisk Benedict receives permission to escort the Malazans to their destination. We get an explanation of what warrens are. I mean, we already talked about that bit, but the the bit where Tehul is consulting his advisors on whether or not it's appropriate to have the Malazans leave the city as soon as possible, and all of his advisors are bug. Fantastic.
I love that scene so much.
Yeah, it was so great. I also really like the Malazans trying to figure out how to whip the Lethari soldiers into shape.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we just gonna have them run some more laps while we think.
like it's a way to achieve fan service for like why are Malazan soldiers so awesome type scenes that fans of the series love, while also but like it's not like cheap. It's not cheap fan service. It's like
Yeah.
posing the problem of like, how does a completely different kind of society try to do to its soldiery what the Malazans have done to their soldiery, so it like
Yeah.
deals with it. Like it's like pretty serious and also fun, and fan service. It's like all together very well done.
Yes.
Well, the thing is, like, if you think about it in history and real life, when a culture encounters another culture, it's very unlikely that either one of them would remain unchanged. Every time there's this interaction, it's very likely that something is being absorbed one way or the other. And I think this is a really nice example of the cross pollination of these different cultures. I'm not quite sure like what the Malazans are taking from the Lethari and incorporating into their own. It does seem very one way at the moment, which sometimes that can be the case. But yeah, this is like it's a fun way to illustrate this concept. And speaking of like the training of the Lethari soldiers, Cuddle has this conversation with Fid, right? Cuddle is like, we don't know what else to do with these. We're just stumbling around. And Fid's like, well, you need to get them out of the city. You need to have them practicing entrenchments, redoubts, berms. You need to, do the A, B, C, D, stretch their chain of command and see who's got the guts to step up when it snaps. You need to make those ones squad leaders. War games too, set them against one of the other brigades or battalions being trained by our Marines. They need to win a few times before they can learn how to avoid losing. And I'm just like, Fed, you are so good at this.
This is why he earns the big bucks
Yeah.
as a sergeant.
As a sergeant.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was great. The other thing though about why the cultural exchange is a little one-sided is because you're not and it's not completely one-sided, Rayfo on that, but it is so far. But it's going to be more one-sided than it might be in other situations because it's not as if the Malazan Empire itself is like colonizing or settling or invading Lether. It's just like this mercenary company. So there's not like they're not going to settle down. They're not going back home to bring like the culture of Letheris back. There's no civilians coming with them because they don't have like a baggage train. It's like all mercs pretty much. And so it's a little different than like, like the Romans conquering somebody and then like recruiting their some of their population into the Roman Empire and having some people settle down in the place that they conquered, and then some people from the place they recruited from and conquered like come back into Rome and like inject some of their culture like into the homeland. And so you don't have all of the same, like the levels of exchange are not as high, and you're just getting like the most hardened like cadres of like Kellanved's military cultural apparatus, like which are going to be the least receptive to like taking on board parts of Lethari culture. So it kind of like makes sense that it's one-sided, but you will see that it's not completely one-sided as the book goes on.
Interesting.
Look at that. I was not the one to bring up Rome. Excellent.
You've corrupted me.
Good. More people should be talking about Rome. I would make the parallel to Meiji era Japan, actually. And the similarities here, there are quite a few actually. The both have essentially been in periods of isolation for incredibly long periods of time, leading to technological and ideological
Right.
stagnation. And then they get this huge culture shock when their military gets like, okay, for Japan, their military didn't get wiped out. They knew that their military was going to get wiped out if they actually tried to resist. So, what do? You if you have competent people in charge, you adapt really quickly and you take whatever ideas you can from these people and you kind of just run with it and you try and figure out what from your culture works and what you need to import from the others and find a good balance there. And
Hmm.
sometimes this works really well. It worked
Yeah.
very, very, very well for Japan in that period. Um, they went from
What
being a backwater isolationist country to like defeating Russia in like 30 years, something like that.
what works really well is if you have a really good understanding of like the motivations and reasoning of your enemy, and
Mhm,
then you're able to exploit that, right? So like, especially if you know what their like decision making process is. So like during the, American Revolution, where it's like these people know how the British fight, and if you fight the same way, it becomes very much a stalemate, or you're just outnumbered and outgunned. And so they took learnings from, the natives and use a very different tactic that the British weren't accustomed to and didn't know how to adapt, at least not as quickly. So there was a lot of discussion about justice in this chapter, and it's this kind of age-old debate, right? Like, d- how righteous are you to deliver justice, like blindly, I guess, without taking into consideration any of the context, or is it actually right?
mhm.
It's such a like conflicting. It's like a conundrum because it's like justice is supposed to be good, but
So we
blind
think,
justice.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And yeah, Steve is very skeptical of justice in this series, I would say. And
Mm.
like with all these questions of cultural conflicts and the small scale human battles that are going on, like I wouldn't be comfortable assigning like trying to adjudicate almost any of these conflicts, and we have more information about them than basically any human gets in real life, right? Like
Yeah,
how
I guess.
like try and like adjudicate the cases of the all versus Lothari and like arrive at a just conclusion there. Like how can you do that? Can you? Would that even be worthwhile?
Well, so you get into this um line of thinking where it's like, who gets to make that call?
Hmm.
Who gets to actually qualify what is justice and what isn't? And is that person, society, group of people, like, are they unbiased? How are their biases playing into how they determine what is just and not? Yeah.
Yeah, and the four cool assail that seem to have taken upon themselves, and like not no one can really stop them. They were just the strongest around. Might made right. There you go. That's your basis for justice right there. They're the strongest ones around, and they can beat you up if they think you're wrong.
Yeah. But then you also have to have some sort of line, right? Because otherwise it's kind of just chaotic. There's no
Yeah,
safety.
yeah, absolutely. And yeah, like the scale to which you allow compassion to play into these things is huge as well, right?
Yeah.
And well, this I would say if the series takes a lot hard takes a line on anything, it's that compassion is worthwhile and it should be practiced and it should be
Hmm.
you should be very liberal with who you're compassionate about and with.
So, you know, throughout the series so far, like the crippled god has just been this character that is very villainized.
Hmm.
And I mean, we haven't really gotten the crippled god's like perspective or any other kind of like redeeming interactions. And I think that when we get to the 10th book, the crippled god, like some of that will be addressed. That's my speculation. And I mean, I think we already talked about this. It's like the ending of how the crippled god will be addressed will be via some sort of compassionate act. By whom? Not sure. It'll probably be a lot of people, but it sounds like from what is told to the reader about how Tavor is approaching the crippled god, because she's saying like colonies or whatever that
Kalans, that's how I say it.
Kalans,
Yeah.
where their journeying to has been usurped for justice, but it's not the right thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah, difficult questions, right? And yeah, like, so I think, is it Quickben that says that thus far all of the crippled god's actions have been defensive in nature because he senses what's happening. He senses what's happening, and he's trying to do something to stop it.
So he's just like protecting himself.
And like maybe that's partially fair, but we also have experienced what his quote defensive actions have entailed, right? Like Rulad Sengar horribly tortured, right? And committed horrible atrocities against the people of Lethris and his own people. The Panian, the Panian Seer also like genocide, his people literally eating each other,
right?
And others. So how do you adjudicate this?
Yep.
I don't know.
Okay.
And you know, how much do you blame? How much of the blame, if you're going to talk about justice, goes on Talor and his detractors going back way, going back.
Yeah. You can do this forever, right? Like who did what to who at what point, which of them was justified, and also like a huge part of the blame could go on the shoulders of the gods of this world, right? Because they're the ones that have kept the crippled god chained up and have fed on his power.
Yep. Okay.
Yep.
But it does seem like maybe there's an end game situation where potentially sorcery is just going to be abolished, and then nobody would be able to basically do this kind of thing again to somebody else.
What an
That's
interesting
my prediction.
Theory. What an interesting prediction.
Well, also because like, you know, the old Warrens are basically dying, apparently, right?
Oh, it's so complicated. It's so complicated.
But then there are new Warrens. There are new Warrens, right?
Which are currently wounded, or they're like malformed or whatever.
Well, because they're so new.
Well, there was a flaw in their creation. We know this in as a Reaper's Gale. Like the machine that Ikariam had made has a flaw.
Okay.
But at the same time, we have Sin talking about like how she's like, oh, I'm just gonna fix this. Let's fix this.
Right. Sin and Grub are like playing with these new Warrens.
Yeah.
Man, it's not at this point yet, so I can't tell Panda what it is. But I had predictions about this as I was reading, and it's in the Crippled God, and I was so off. I'm wondering if some of my predictions are dealt with in God is Not Willing, but I'm not gonna hold my breath. I was so off. The most accurate predictions I made about this series and how it was gonna end, I made it during Memories of Ice, and everything I predicted after that point has been wrong.
Really? Maybe I should go back and listen to your predictions of Memories of Ice.
You should. Well, he made a lot of them separately as well, to sending them to
the Memories of Ice one I didn't ever announce because I had it spoiled.
Yeah. You sent it to me, and I was like, yeah.
I only told people privately because it was spoiled that I was correct, and I was like furious because I had been waiting to say anything till we had our recordings.
I see.
And then every single thing I've predicted since then I've been wrong about. So because I like tried to predict it like it was a Brandon Sanderson novel every time, and like I never like got out of that habit even on book 10. Doesn't work.
Nope.
Oh, interesting. How off am I? Don't tell me.
Yeah, we can talk about that later. That'll be a fun discussion, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, and like our series wrap-up episode.
Oh, if only I can remember. At least I guess we have a recording.
It's in sight. It's in.
Yeah.
Shall we move on to chapter 6? Chapter 6, the Kindrel burn tears make enemies of the Wakanda kingdom with the backing of the Grey Helms. Yantovis resolves to open the gate to Galan to lead her people home. The ghost and his companions find it could change Shamal City. Yeah, it's not going to be any spoiler. The gate to Galan. What does Galan sound like, Panda?
Galan? Kalam?
Yes.
No?
There we go. You figured it out. They're going to find Kalam. Okay.
Really?
Well, no. No. I wish. That would be hilarious. That would be a hilarious thing for the Shake. It's just they're so mopey and sad, and their fabled shore is actually just this assassin from the Seven Cities.
Yeah.
No.
Is it Ghislaine?
Yes, it is Krill's
Yeah.
Lane.
Okay.
Yeah. The first shore, the fabled beginning of everything in the Malazan universe. Sort of. Who knows? Conflicting stories.
Galan is also something else too.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's also Gallon.
What's Gallon?
Blind Gallon.
Oh, wait. No. I've always said that as Blind Galan.
Oh, yeah. I don't know how it's pronounced.
Isn't the road named the same exact name, like spelling and pronunciation, as the poet, or no?
It might be.
Yeah, that's what I was alluding to. Minor spoilers.
So
yeah, it's his road.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they go over it later.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That just went over my head. So.
Yeah, the Shake are weird. They have anti-blood, sort of. Kind of.
Okay. Well, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go along with the ride. Okay.
This is another thing where it's like this is dealt with in Carcanos. That makes things more confusing.
Are you
Okay.
actually gonna read Carcanos, Panda?
I have no idea.
Well, we'll see. She'll need a break after.
I can read it after The Crippled God.
Yeah,
Oh
absolutely.
yeah,
Okay. What's the first book?
Forge of Darkness.
that one's
Okay.
tiny, and then the other one's big.
I wouldn't call Forge of Darkness tiny. It's like it's still like Deadhouse Gate size, right?
No, it's not even that big. It's a 16-hour read. Deadhouse Gates is over 20.
I see.
Okay.
It's still not tiny.
I mean, that's tiny for me. I read like 20 to 40-hour books all the time. So
Yeah.
I mean, put it next to to the Fall of Light. Like Fall of Light's like almost 4 times the length. It's huge.
And
Oh.
Fall of Light is amazing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is amazing.
I would sooner recommend The God Is Not Willing after finishing Malazan.
Okay.
Or Book
I
of
still
Fallen.
haven't read that.
It's amazing. I love it.
I want to. I think I might read Forge of the High Mage first.
Yeah, give Ashaman some love. I am not opposed to that at all.
I want to meet this queen.
The queen?
The queen of the Volcanados.
Volcando? No, the 14th daughter, right? Or
Well, the queen and the 14th daughter.
Yeah.
Those are two of my favorite characters in the series.
Really?
Really?
Ooh.
I love them. Especially the queen. I'm a big fan of the queen.
That feels like a hot take to me, but I like it.
Oh, interesting. I mean, she's got like her own legion that's like apparently really scary and powerful.
They're the actual disciplined army of the kingdom.
Yes. I
I
love it.
Yeah, we can talk about it more when she's actually a character in the book. But
Okay.
I really like her, and she like kind of surprised me because of how the other Balkando people act, and I expected her to be like kind of like them, and she's not. And I won't say
Prepare
more.
to be surprised. Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good.
It's fantastic when Krukava is dealing with the Volcando delegation. She's like, well, you're telling me these things. Okay,
Right.
I accept them. What do they tell me? They tell me that you guys have been right bastards to the Kindrel Burn Tears. I'm on their side. You guys better get out of our way.
That was such a great turnaround, because I was like, the whole time I was kind of taken in by Krukava's act as well. So I was like, oh no, these Balkando are gonna set the Malazan's allies against each other, and this is gonna be like this whole thing that the book is about. And then she's just like, no, this is you guys think I'm an idiot. And I was like, oh good, yeah, they've actually had time to get to know each other off age, but it makes sense that they would, right?
Yes.
So.
And as well, the war leader Gaul is so cool here. He's like do you recognize? Oh, my warriors. They might have made a mistake. You know what the correct solution to do here is? We're gonna take the capital.
Let's invade.
Let's invade.
Isn't it also implied that he's like gay or bisexual in this scene?
Yeah, maybe. I don't have a really good memory of this scene right now.
I know what you're talking about. Yes.
Yeah, which means I have to take back that the only male gay characters shown in the series are played up for laughs. There is literally one guy in the main 10 books who's portrayed as a homosexual, and it's not played up for laughs. So there you go, Steve. You fixed it in book 9.
Yeah. This is also the chapter where they find the giant dragon monument city thing.
Yeah, it's the Kachin-Chamal city, right?
Yes. Which, oh my goodness, what imagery.
There's a really cool picture of them finding it. I don't remember where I saw it, but it's cool fan art.
Yeah, I don't think it's fan art even. I think it's Subterranean Press.
Oh, even better.
Yeah. So official art. I'll see if I can find it
Okay.
and share it. But yeah, I think I know exactly which one you're talking about, and it is amazing. Yeah. It looks like a dragon. says.
Well, I would hope so. So Texilian. Wait, Texilian is not a ghost. Texilian is different than I forgot the name. Wasn't he in the city when Ikarium's machine went off?
He sure was.
Wait, so what's going on here?
Yeah, so just confused. Think about that. Just have a good think.
Have a good think? I can't. My mind is blank now.
Or don't, that's fine too.
Okay.
Wait, what was it? What was the question? Sorry.
Taxilian?
What's going on? Yeah.
He was a translator for the Ticed Eder, and then he was an engineer in Reaper's Gale, and then he died when Ikarium turned on the machine.
Right. So
allegedly.
Isn't he just dead? Why is he here walking?
Why are any of them there walking? They are all died.
Then who's the ghost?
You better read and find out.
Okay.
Yeah.
They don't like spears.
Yeah, they don't like. Yeah.
Which makes me think okay, I mean, the famous spear wielder is Troll, so Troll has something to do with them.
I can say without. Yep. Go ahead.
No. What?
No. Tell me your realization. You really latched onto something there.
No, it's probably really wrong. I was gonna say that the ghost is Troll, but that's wrong.
Why would Troll be scared of spears?
He wouldn't.
Yeah. But who would?
Yeah, just think. Just have a good think about who has reason to be scared of spears.
Thinking about Troll is kind of relevant there. What was Troll's favorite weapon?
Yeah, Troll's favorite weapon was a spear.
Sure was.
Right. So what might they be afraid of?
They're afraid of Troll.
Yeah, but why?
I don't remember.
That's fine. It's fine. You just keep reading. That you maybe think about this some more, but keep reading, and all will be made clear. Maybe.
I feel like I should know this already, but I just don't remember.
It's totally fine that you don't. Totally fine that you don't. You don't need to know it. It's something that I certainly completely missed.
The first time, this was the first moment where I had my first clue, and I realized there were a bunch late along the way, but I still didn't put it all together. So you have some more to go. You're ahead of where I was.
Okay.
I read this.
I think. Interesting. Okay. And then
I gotta go.
There was okay.
Thank
you.
Thanks for coming out. Nice talking again.
There was this line that says, "The ghost watched as breath paused to bend down and run a finger through decaying blood. She slipped that finger into her mouth and smiled." What the hell?
Yeah.
That's so gross, but also why is there decaying blood in the city monument thing? And why is she liking the taste of it?
Yeah, that probably tells you something about her. The reason why there's decaying blood in this is it has to do with they all died in here, right? Like the city is abandoned, or at least as far as we know, judging from this chapter. I think it's said. So that's why there's
But
blood. And
why die in there? Why not run away?
yeah,
Maybe they were like besieged.
that would be one reason why you would die in there rather than running away, for sure.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Any more thoughts? We can answer the listener question now if you want, or we probably actually already got into it.
Let's just take a check.
Yeah.
Let's see. Sun Gamer said, "Any guesses who the Ribby Snake or the Elan, i.e., Calith, were running from?" Nope. "Do you think Calith will succeed? Will it be new characters or ones we already know?" I think she will interact with somebody. She'll find something, but I think she's gonna die, and the Kachin Chamal matron's quest will not succeed. But then there will be a twist of some sort after that. I know, this is a great prediction. She's gonna run into somebody we know, I think.
Okay.
What's up with that ghost?
Yeah.
What is up with that
What
ghost? We
indeed?
just
What's up with it? Yeah. And then what's up with her work? Yeah. That
Yep.
also a very good question.
I think I do not have enough info, and we shall see what book 2 brings. Book 2 is called Eaters of Diamonds and Gems.
That's a pretty metal
I
name.
do think that the book titles of this book of Dust of Dreams is particularly poetic, because the first one's the sea does not dream of you.
Yeah, which is probably my favorite line in the series, as I've said before. Yeah. That over the course of the series, Steve definitely embraces his poetic side more, and feels like he can spend more time on poetics than the standard fantasy stuff, which I appreciate. Although it has mixed reactions among the fans. For understandable reasons, to be fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you have any more thoughts before we wrap up the episode? We'll probably wrap up.
I guess just a couple more is so by the time this episode releases, our discussion with Erikson and AP Canavan would already be released too.
Yep.
And that was a really fun conversation. I do think that there was like part of the conversation, there was a topic that was kind of missed. And I would be interested in bringing that up with them the next time we talk to them. It's because we were talking about how like geography impacts culture and like religion, etc. We didn't really talk about how technology and like transportation in the Malazan world, how like what role that plays.
That is that's actually a really good point. That question I think is especially really interesting after you read The God Is Not Willing, but we could have a very good discussion with him about it after The Crippled God as well. I totally agree. That's a really good idea.
Okay. Yeah, and it's just like there's so much that we could go into.
Yeah. I mean, we could have kept talking to him for hours.
I know.
Many hours more. We already talked to him for hours, basically, right?
Poor people. Poor AP and Erikson. Which
Hey, they seem to like it.
Yeah, it's always nice to see AP's name in the like acknowledgments of these books. I was just like looking at it today, and and then Dust of Dreams is dedicated to Donaldson, which I didn't realize.
I was supposed to say that. Yeah, Donaldson gave him a after Guardians of the Moon was released, he gave him an endorsement that really helped him out. So return this is dedicated to Donaldson, and I think that's excellent. Maybe I'll even read Donaldson now that he has Steven Erikson's endorsement.
Can you imagine like somebody you admire so much, and then they like admire you too?
Yeah, and you're just starting out. You're like a nobody at that point.
Mm-hmm.
It's your first book.
Yeah.
That would be an incredible feeling.
Well, now that it's down to 2 of us. No, I'm just kidding. That is it for our first episode of Dust of Dreams. We are close to the end, but not quite. It's still going to take us a couple months.
7 more episodes. Yeah.
7 more episodes to go, I guess. Okay. But if you enjoy listening, feel free to interact with us on Discord. Find us on Twitter at Green Team Pod. There aren't that many opportunities left to ask listener
Ask
questions.
questions. Until we
So-
inevitably do Karkanis and the Malazan Empire and everything else.
Well, I cannot commit to those.
No, understandable. There have been a lot of Malazan people joining actually Discord over the
That's
past few
true.
months. That's really
Yeah.
cool to see.
Come join the party and check out the Legendarium. And thank you very much for listening to us. Until next time, bye.
Bye. Pew pew pew.
Pew pew.